Hey guys, welcome to Smack Talk Wrestling. I am your host Boyze, and this is Where Are They Now? We're going to look at WWE Draft of 2016, the top 30 picks, which was done on the July the 19th episode of Raw, and we're going to see where are all these 30 stars, superstars at now. With all that said and done, let's get straight on with it. Let's hit the music. So the first pick of the night went to Raw, and they chose none other than Seth Rollins, which was, for the time, a bit of a surprise because he was technically the number one contender for the WWE Championship, but he wasn't the champion. He did go off to be in the first Universal title match against Finn Balor. He would be portrayed by none other than his mentor Triple H. He would become the Kingslayer, winning the Intercontinental Championship and the Raw Tag Team Champions, becoming a Grand Slam champion in the process. He'd later become the Beastslayer this year, where he beat none other than Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 35 to claim the Universal title, becoming a Grand Slam champion, holding every belt possible on the main roster. Yeah, not a bad pick for number one. Seth has an up and down, but now he truly is the face of Monday Night Raw. So pick number two for the night, and the first pick for SmackDown Live was the WWE champion at the time, Dean Ambrose. Ambrose would hold the title for 83 days before dropping it. Then he would go on to win the Intercontinental Championship on SmackDown. He would move soon back onto Raw on the first Superstar Shake-Up, where he would later on win the Raw Tag Team Championships with none other than his brother Seth friggin' Rollins. Later on he would win the Intercontinental Championship from Seth himself, but after turning heel after Roman Reigns had to leave WWE for a while to fight leukemia. Soon after that, Dean would turn babyface again after he announced that he will not be signing a new contract with WWE. Right now, as we speak, Dean Ambrose is at the end of his contract. He's doing the last bit of his touring, and that's it for his time with the company. Dean also will be claimed as one of the first members of the Shield to get the Grand Slam after winning nearly every title in the company. So not a bad run for the second pick and first pick for SmackDown Live. So the third pick of the night and the second pick for Raw was none other than the Women's Champion Charlotte Flair. Charlotte would go on to be the first Raw Women's Champion, where she would feud with none other than Sasha Banks for that title. Her and Sasha would break history when they would become the first women to ever main event a WWE pay-per-view, and then later on Charlotte would do that again, becoming one of 3 women to main event WrestleMania this year. Charlotte is also in the history books for breaking the women's championship record, where she's right now, as we speak, a 8-time women's champion. But let's be honest, she has so much she can still do in the company. She could easily become a 9-time women's champion sometime down the line this year. With that said and done, a great pick for Raw, but right now Charlotte is a SmackDown superstar. The fourth pick of the night and the second pick for SmackDown Live was none other than the phenomenal AJ Styles. AJ would go on to feud with the current WWE champion at the time, Dean Ambrose, winning the title and holding the title for no longer than 137 days before dropping it to John Cena. He would reclaim the title later on and have won the longest WWE Championship reigns on SmackDown Live histories at 371 days. AJ would also claim the United States Championship 3 times while he was feuding with Kevin Owens, and now, as we speak, AJ Styles has just moved to Raw and the latest episode of the Superstar Shake-Up. So AJ really did come the most phenomenal and the man who helped build SmackDown Live. The fifth pick of the night and the third pick for Raw was none other than Finn Balor. A huge announcement for that one because most fans weren't expecting Finn to make the top 5 picks, yet he did. He would go on to become the first Universal Champion, but unfortunately would have to relinquish the belt 24 hours after winning it, after picking up an injury fighting against none other than Seth Rollins. Finn would stay in the mid-card section for some time after his return from injury, until recently he did become the Intercontinental Champion for the second time running after beating Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. At this year's Superstar Shake-Up though, Finn Balor did finally get a move to SmackDown Live, taking the Intercontinental Championship with him to the blue brand. The 6th pick of the night and the 4th pick for Raw was none other than Roman Reigns. Roman at this time was technically suspended for breaking WWE wellness policy, but he would be back in time to be in a triple threat match against Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose for the WWE Championship. After that, Roman would claim singles titles as United States Champion, Intercontinental Champion, and finally he'd become Universal Champion, beating Brock Lesnar. Roman would have to relinquish the title soon after winning it, after he was diagnosed with leukemia. Luckily enough, several months after his diagnosis, he did claim that he'd beaten leukemia again and was back for his yard. During the 2019 Superstar Shake-Up, Roman finally made the move to SmackDown Live, where he claims that SmackDown Live is now his yard. The 7th pick of the night and the 3rd pick for SmackDown Live was none other than John Cena. John Cena would become a 16-time champion as his time on SmackDown Live win, beating AJ Styles for the title. Unfortunately, John Cena's title reign was one of the shortest in SmackDown Live history, where he only held the title for 14 days before losing it at Elimination Chamber. Since then, John became a free agent, allowing him to perform on both Raw and SmackDown, and then later on he would become more of a part-time superstar, only appearing on big shows like Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. John's more moved into the bigger screen, where he is becoming a more and more movie star kind of character, working along with The Rock himself. The 8th pick of the night and the 5th pick for Raw was none other than Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's time on Raw has been nothing but part-time, as best be described. Brock would become Universal Champion, adding a bit of prestige to that championship, and he would become the first ever 2-time Universal Champion after Roman Reigns had to relinquish the title and him winning it in Saudi Arabia against none other than Braun Strowman. Since WrestleMania 35, Brock Lesnar has not been seen on TV, but that's no surprise really. Brock Lesnar's contract is on a part-time basis, and we probably won't see Brock now for another few months. The 9th pick of the night and the 4th pick for SmackDown Live was none other than Randy Orton. Randy Orton would have a huge time on SmackDown Live, where he still is to this day. He's one of the very rare superstars who hasn't moved brands since the WWE Draft in 2016. He would become a 13-time world champion, beating Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania to claim the title. His title reign wasn't that long though, it was only lasted 49 days before he would lose the title shockingly to Jinder Mahal. Randy's time on SmackDown Live has turned from babyface to heel, and let's be honest, he's become that veteran wrestler where you can still get amazing matches. He's still a fan favourite to this day, but it'll be interesting to see what's next for Randy Orton on the blue brand. The 10th pick of the night and the 6th pick for Raw was none other than the WWE Tag Team Champions at the time, the New Day. New Day would hold the titles for a record 483 days, smashing all records beforehand. New Day would move on to SmackDown Live, where they would have some of the biggest feuds in their career against the Usos and the Bar. What's happened since then? Well, none other than Kofi Kingston, one of the members of the New Day, has recently claimed a WWE Championship for himself, beating Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35. So let's be honest, picking the New Day was a huge gamble for WWE Raw, but my god, I think they became more successful since they moved to SmackDown Live. The 11th pick of the night and the 7th pick for Raw was none other than Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn would move on to SmackDown Live in the next Superstar Shake-Up after the WWE Draft, where he would turn heel and start working with his longtime friend Kevin Owens. The biggest feud they would have would be against Shane O'Mac and Daniel Bryan's return to in-ring action, where if Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens would lose that match, which they did, they would be fired from WWE. Soon enough, they were signed by none other than Stephanie McMahon, who signed them as free agents. After that, Sami would get an injury after having probably one of the worst feuds in Raw's history against Bobby Lashley. Sami did recently just return to in-ring action, where he is now back on Raw and is still a heel. 12th pick of the night and the 5th pick for SmackDown Live was the Eater of Worlds, Bray Wyatt. Bray would go on to win the WWE Championship off John Cena at Elimination Chamber. Soon after that, he would go into a feud with Randy Orton, a member of the Wyatt family, who turned face on Bray and burned down his house. Remember, Randy Orton at this time was classed as a face, and he burned down Bray Wyatt's house. He would lose the title at WrestleMania to Randy Orton. After the Superstar shake-up, he would be moved from SmackDown Live to Raw, which was a bit strange because Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt were still having a feud at this time. They had the Wyatt House match, which was bizarre at its core. Soon after that, Bray Wyatt would team up with Broken Matt Hardy to win the Raw Tag Team Championship. Bray did get injured and only recently is returning to in-ring action. His vignettes have already started on both Raw and SmackDown, but as we speak right now, Bray Wyatt is a free agent to WWE. 13th pick of the night and the 8th pick for Raw was none other than the boss herself, Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks would go on to feud with Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship, where she would become a 4-time Women's Champion. Well, let's be honest, she has the shortest reigns in the history of the Raw Women's Championship, with all her reigns combined only lasting 80 days. Sasha Banks then became the one half of the first Women's Tag Team Championship champions with her partner Bayley. She would lose those titles at WrestleMania 35 to the Iconics. Sasha Banks hasn't been seen on TV since WrestleMania 35, seeing as there's been a dispute over her belief that she should have held on to the Tag Team Championships longer than she actually did. The 14th pick of the night and the 6th pick for SmackDown Live was none other than the last kicker herself, Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch would become the first SmackDown Live Women's Champion. She would lose it to Alexa Bliss. She did reclaim the title after she became the man. Becky Lynch has right now become the hottest commodity on both Raw and SmackDown. This year alone, she is also one of 1/3 of the women who took part in the first ever WrestleMania main event match, where Becky Lynch became the Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion by pinning Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania. Becky Lynch right now, as we speak, is still contracted to both SmackDown and now is contracted to Raw because she is the Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion. The 15th pick of the show and the 9th pick for Raw went to none other than Y2J. That's right, Chris Jericho was the 15th pick of the night and he went to Raw. Jericho would become a Grand Slam champion on his time on Raw, where he would win the United States Championship. He'd soon move to SmackDown Live, where he actually kind of retired from the company. He left the company soon after he's moved to SmackDown Live. As we speak, he's been touring with his band Boyze, and he's just recently signed a contract with a new company called AEW, All Elite Wrestling. So yeah, Jericho, number 15. 16th pick of the show and the 10th pick for Raw went to none other than Rusev. Rusev at the time was the United States Champion, where he brought the United States Championship to Raw. Rusev would lose the title on Raw, but soon after that would be moved to SmackDown Live in the first Superstar Shakeup, where Rusev has remained since then. Rusev and Lana are still together on SmackDown Live, where Rusev has now started teaming up with former #1 contender and former United States Champion himself, Shinsuke Nakamura. Rusev had a massive rise in popularity in 2018 with the rise of none other than Rusev Day. That's probably Rusev's biggest claim to popularity and biggest push for him to get a WWE Championship, even though most fans, even before Rusev Day, was wanting him to challenge for the WWE Championship. 17th pick of the night and the 7th pick for SmackDown Live went to The Miz. Miz went there to SmackDown Live with nothing else but the Intercontinental Championship. The Miz had probably one of his best runs on SmackDown Live, becoming the most infamous Intercontinental Champion, bringing prestige back to the championship itself, as he claimed. He had a long running feud with Daniel Bryan, who was general manager of SmackDown Live at the time, with his infamous Talking Smacks promo, which was just absolutely brilliant. Since then, The Miz moved on to Raw with the Intercontinental Championship. Then, after the second Superstar shakeup, The Miz was moved back to SmackDown Live, where he would face Daniel Bryan in a feud. In the recent 2019 Superstar shakeup, The Miz has moved back to Raw. This is continuing his feud with Shane O'Mac, where The Miz has become a babyface character, where Shane has become a heel. The major reason for The Miz's move to Raw, though, wasn't for the feud for Shane O'Mac, though. It was because of his reality TV show Miz and Mrs., which apparently the average viewership has gone down since the first season, and WWE moved him to Raw so he could advertise the show with an extra day for it. 18th pick of the night and the 11th pick for Raw went to none other than my spirit animal, Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens went off to Raw and became the second Universal Champion. After Finn Balor had to relinquish the belt through injury, there was a fatal four-way match elimination fatal four-way match between Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns and Big Cass. Kevin Owens would win the title thanks to help from Triple H after he betrayed none other than Seth Rollins to help Kevin Owens win the title. Kevin would have a long feud with both Seth, Roman and several others before losing the title to none other than legendary wrestler Goldberg. He'd soon turn on his BFF Chris Jericho, where they would feud for the United States Championship. Kevin would soon move to SmackDown Live, where he would feud again with Daniel Bryan and Shane O'Mac. After that, after his match against Shane O'Mac and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania, he would be a free agent and move to Raw. After that, he would return from injury, where he would go back to SmackDown Live as a babyface Everyday Joe to take on a heel Daniel Bryan. Number 19 and number 8 on SmackDown's pick was none other than Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin would have an interesting time on SmackDown Live. He would become a United States Champion on the blue brand. He would also become a Money in the Bank holder, where he tried to cash in on Jinder Mahal but got distracted by John Cena and failed to win the WWE Championship. He'd soon be moved over to Raw, where he'd become the GM elect, where he had all the power after forcing Stephanie McMahon to remove Kurt Angle from his power. Right now, Baron Corbin is one of the biggest heels on the Raw brand, but has not yet been able to claim any singles gold on the red brand. 20th pick of the night and the 12th pick for Raw went to none other than Enzo Amore and Big Cass. Both guys would soon be separated after Big Cass would turn heel on Enzo Amore. Enzo would become a cruiserweight champion, where Big Cass would be suspended then released. After that, Enzo Amore would also be suspended and released from the company. Both men right now are on the independent scene, where they have recently invaded Ring of Honor / New Japan show at Madison Square Garden, where they were back together as a tag team. So that would be quite interesting. But yeah, both Enzo and Big Cass are out of the company. The first pick of the WWE Draft and the 13th pick for Raw went to none other than Gallows and Anderson. Both men would be selected for Raw. They would finally win the WWE Raw Tag Team Champions off Cesaro and Sheamus on a kick-off show nonetheless. They would lose the titles to a returning Hardy Boyz at WrestleMania, and since then they were moved to SmackDown Live, where they've made very little impact in their time on the blue brand. Rumours have it that both Gallows and Anderson are waiting for their contracts to expire so they can return to New Japan and return to the Bullet Club. The 22nd pick of the night and the 9th pick for SmackDown Live went to American Alpha. American Alpha were one of the upcoming NXT tag teams at the time. Jason Jordan and Chad Gable would go on to win the SmackDown Tag Team Champions off none other than Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Soon after that, Jason Jordan would move to Raw, where his storyline father would be Kurt Angle. That was supposed to lead up to a feud between Kurt and Jason Jordan, but unfortunately before that, Jason had a neck injury and had to go into operation. Jason has not been seen on TV for over a year now. He did before his injury, did win the Raw Tag Team Championships with none other than Seth Rollins. Jason Jordan would still work for WWE as a backstage producer. Chad Gable, on the other hand, would go on to Raw himself as a singles competitor, then started teaming up with none other than Bobby Roode. Him and Bobby Roode would win the Raw Tag Team Championships until recently, when they did lose them. They would also have a split, and now that Chad Gable is back on SmackDown Live. 23rd pick of the night and the 14th pick for Raw went to none other than The Big Show. The Big Show wouldn't really be on Raw for that much of the time after the WWE Draft. Soon enough, he magically appeared on SmackDown Live, and then as the muscle for both Cesaro and Sheamus. After that, really pretty much not a lot has been seen of the big man himself. A lot of rumours have it he has technically retired from WWE. The 24th pick of the night and the 10th pick for SmackDown Live went to none other than the show stealer himself, Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler would go on to win the Intercontinental Championship on a career versus title match against The Miz, probably one of his best feuds on SmackDown Live. Miz would fully push Dolph to turn heel. After a while, Dolph Ziggler would turn heel after super kicking Apollo Crews in the head after having a match against Baron Corbin. Soon after that, he would turn up on Raw, tag teaming up with a return Drew McIntyre, where they would win the Tag Team Championships twice before Drew would turn on Dolph Ziggler, calling him the weakest link. Since then, Dolph has left WWE to pursue a comedy career. Rumour has it he's still technically contracted with the company, but that is just rumours as it is. The 25th pick of the night and the 15th pick for Raw went to none other than Nia Jax. Nia Jax was coming up from NXT. Nia would become a WWE Raw Women's Champion, taking on Alexa Bliss in WrestleMania. This was a really interesting storyline for Nia Jax. It was all aimed at bullying, where Alexa Bliss would call Nia Jax a lot of names behind her back. Nia Jax finally discovered what Alexa was saying, and she turned face in the process. Surprisingly enough, the company did turn Nia Jax back to heel when she started feuding with her newly signed Ronda Rousey. Bit of a shame, really. Since then, Nia Jax has been teaming up with her cousin Tamina for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. But to be honest with you, Nia Jax is one of the rare superstars who is still on the original brand she was drafted to on that time and has not moved since. The 26th pick of the night and the 16th pick for Raw went to none other than Neville. Neville would go on to 205, becoming the king of the cruiserweights, where he would become the cruiserweight champion. Unfortunately, he would leave the company after losing the title to Enzo Amore, bickering with the creative team after they had no plans for him after his loss with Enzo. Bit of a shame really. Neville was one of the most highly talented wrestlers on the company, and his new King Neville routine was actually really popular with the fans. Since then, Neville's gone back to Dragon Gate Wrestling and is also going to be appearing on AEW's Double or Nothing, where he'll be taking on Hangman Page. The 27th pick and the 11th pick for SmackDown Live went to none other than Natalya. Natalya would have a fantastic run on SmackDown Live, becoming a SmackDown Live Women's Champion. She would also become the head of the welcoming committee, where she and several other WWE superstars on the SmackDown Women's roster would attack none other than Charlotte Flair, turning Charlotte Flair face for a short period of time. Since then, Natalya has moved on to Raw, where she has been teaming up with her former BFF Beth Phoenix, who's kind of come out of retirement to go on to challenge for the Women's Tag Team Championship. She would also start pairing up with none other than newly signed Ronda Rousey, being her training partner and friend in the company. Pick number 28 and pick for number 17 for Raw went to none other than Cesaro. Cesaro was absolutely angry that he was chosen to go onto Raw. If you look at his interview on WWE.com, he wanted to go to SmackDown Live. That was the brand he originally wanted to go to. Luckily enough, his wishes did come true. He would move to SmackDown Live with his tag team partner. Cesaro would have a massive feud with Sheamus before. After that, they would become a tag team champions with each other, breaking the New Day's impressive tag team reign. Soon after that, they would move on to SmackDown Live, having feuds with both the Usos and the New Day again, continuing to be one of the best tag teams in the company. Pick number 29 and the 12th and final pick for SmackDown Live went to none other than Alberto Del Rio. Alberto Del Rio is no longer with the company. Him and Paige were suspended for several violations against the WWE wellness policy. He'd soon be fired from the company soon after that, and he's gone back to wrestle in Mexico. Not a lot to be said. He went off to Impact as well. He would become Impact Wrestling Champion as well before he was fired by Impact as well for misconduct. And the 30th and final pick of the show and the 18th pick for Raw went to none other than Cesaro's tag team partner, Sheamus. Yes, Sheamus won off to Raw. Him and Cesaro, like I claimed on the Cesaro segment, would have a huge feud where it would lead on to them becoming tag team champions together. Yes, after that they become one of the most successful tag teams in WWE history, where they would win Raw Tag Team Championships and as well as SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Both Cesaro and Sheamus are now still on the blue brand, where they will be carrying on being one of the best tag teams in the company. And there you go, guys. That was all 30 picks from the WWE Draft from 2016. I'm not doing the WWE Network exclusive picks. I might do that in a later video, but that was the 30 picks done on the Raw episode on July the 19th. So if you do like our videos, please like, subscribe, press that bell to keep notified. If you want to follow us on the old Twitter, it's at SmackTalkYouTube. If you want to follow me on the old Twitter, it's at Boyze88. And I'll see you guys next time on Smack Talk Wrestling.